Prince Charming is on a mission to claim his princess from a towering fortress. He is living his best main character energy, expecting a royal payoff. But the theater audience is low-key unimpressed by this cheesy, staged drama. Charming draws his sword to take out the beast guarding the tower. He has clearly cooked up a plan to snatch the throne for himself. He screams for the monster to face his wrath in a dramatic showdown. The theater crowd is totally over it and just wants him to stop. The ogres behind the curtain are feeling the cringe of the moment. Prince Charming realizes his path to power is currently blocked by an ogre. He vows to take back what he believes is rightfully his throne. He is locked in and ready to sweep aside anyone in his way. The morning sun shines on the swamp, but things are getting chaotic. Fiona looks at the palace duties and feels the weight of adulting. Shrek is definitely not vibing with the royal responsibilities this morning. They have to step up while the king and queen are sidelined. Fiona tries to motivate Shrek to get his act together for the day. Shrek vents about how these royal duties are a major vibe killer. He tries to act the part, but it is clearly not his element. They force him into a suit that is honestly just tragic. The staff tries to transform an ogre into a polished gentleman. Shrek is questioning every single choice being made in this makeover. Fiona tries to keep him on track so they can survive the ceremony. He reminds them that he is an ogre, not a dress-up doll. The pressure is high and everyone is frantic to get things perfect. Fiona begs him to just endure it for her parents' sake. They are only placeholders until the king finally recovers. Fiona tries to be supportive, but Shrek is clearly suffering. The itchy suit is making Shrek lose his mind in public. He asks a guard his name, setting the stage for a blunder. The announcer introduces the couple to a very confused crowd. Shrek loses control and starts scratching his back on a statue. Fiona is horrified as Shrek creates an absolute scene. He tries to brush it off but the vibe is already ruined. Shrek decides he is done with this royal nonsense right now. He realizes he is just not built for the royal lifestyle. Fiona tries to stay positive despite the absolute chaos unfolding. Donkey chimes in with his own chaotic energy to lighten the mood. Shrek dreams of returning to the mud and the swamp life. He misses the simplicity of his swamp and the lack of expectations. Donkey actually finds the idea of a swamp vacation appealing. Fiona hints at something bigger, but Shrek is not catching it. He thinks she means more pests, failing to read the room. Fiona finally brings up the idea of them having a family. Shrek is low-key panicking at the thought of a tiny ogre. He breaks down why babies are basically just chaos machines. He tells Fiona she is all he needs right now. He hopes there is a good reason for the interruption coming up. King Harold is actually on his deathbed, which is a major plot twist. The king tries to settle his final affairs with the queen. He finally opens up about his regrets regarding Fiona. He admits that Shrek has changed his perspective on life. He accepts Shrek into the family in a surprisingly sweet moment. Shrek appreciates the gesture but feels the weight of the moment. The king has one final directive for the royal heir. The kingdom is suddenly left without a ruler to guide them. Harold calls Shrek to his side for one last serious talk. He insists that Shrek take over the throne immediately. Shrek is stunned that he is the chosen successor for the kingdom. Shrek thinks the king is just being his usual funny self. He knows that an ogre king is a recipe for total disaster. There is a secret heir that Shrek knows absolutely nothing about. He asks for the name, curious about who could be next. The king struggles to get the name out before passing on. The name finally drops, and everything is about to change. The mystery heir is named Arthur, and he is a total wild card. The king passes, leaving the fate of the kingdom to Shrek. Shrek realizes he is officially the one in charge now. The tone shifts as the funeral music starts playing loudly. Prince Charming is already plotting at the local dive bar. He is looking for his own redemption in a dark, grimy spot. The locals are not buying his act at all today. Charming tries to manipulate the villains into joining his scheme. He points out their failures to push their emotional buttons. He exploits their bitterness to build his own army of misfits. He brings up Pinocchio to stir the pot even more. The villains are clearly agitated by his manipulative tactics. He sells them a dream of finally getting their revenge. Shrek and Donkey are deep in an intense debate about the terror of impending fatherhood. Shrek is low-key spiraling, worried that he will ruin the baby's life just by being an ogre. Donkey tries to talk him off the ledge, but Shrek is convinced he has zero main character energy for this. They finally arrive at a place called Worcestershire, and the vibes are immediately cursed. Donkey is confused by the name, while Shrek is feeling his anxiety levels spike. They realize this mysterious academy is actually a high school, and it looks like a total nightmare. The students are acting out some weird medieval roleplay, and it is honestly so wild. Shrek and Donkey step into the chaos, looking like they stepped off a different movie set entirely. Shrek tries to blend in, but he is clearly not feeling the high school energy at all. Donkey is having traumatic flashbacks to his own school days, which is just hilarious. Donkey hints at a dark past involving school bullying that he would rather keep under wraps. The students are speaking in some cringe, faux Shakespearean dialect that is pure torture to hear. Some nerd hits on them with gamer speak, and it is honestly so hard to watch. Shrek finally demands to know where they can find Arthur, but the kids just stare blankly. He pushes past the dorks to find the one kid who is definitely going to be their king. The loser Arthur is pointed out, and he is looking like the biggest dweeb in the entire school. Arthur is bragging about a minor victory, totally unaware that his life is about to change forever. Shrek is really trying to convince himself that this kid has royal potential, but it is a stretch. Arthur acts all mysterious, but Shrek is not here for his high school drama. The jocks drag Arthur off, and Shrek is forced to intervene before things get ugly. Shrek confronts Arthur in the locker room, and the poor kid is absolutely terrified. Arthur tries to process what is happening, while Shrek just wants to get the mission over with. Lancelot tries to flex, but he is clearly just another loser in this weird school bubble. The social hierarchy here is so petty, and Arthur is firmly at the bottom. Shrek needs to extract Arthur before the entire school turns into a full-blown battlefield. Donkey starts losing it, ready to wreck these kids for acting like they own the place. The duo realizes the only way to get close to Arthur is to join the mascot competition. Shrek puts on a costume, and he looks so unhinged it is actually working. They test the suit, and it is basically bulletproof, which is a major W. The principal gives a lecture that is absolute snoozefest material for everyone involved. Shrek enters the arena, and the crowd is shook to see an actual ogre on stage. Shrek leans into the bit, playing the crowd like a total pro while hunting for Arthur. The staff is losing their minds, but Shrek is locked in on his target. Chaos breaks out, and Shrek gets framed for starting a riot he did not even cause. Arthur is cowering in fear, convinced that Shrek is actually there for a snack. Shrek is frustrated because the kid is literally the key to his entire future. He breaks the news to Arthur that he is the heir to the throne. The jocks chime in with a sick burn, but Shrek is not letting them ruin the vibe. It is finally time for Arthur to leave this dump and embrace his destiny. Arthur is shocked, and frankly, so is the audience because this kid is so mid. Arthur starts planning his revenge on the bullies, which is a total mood. Donkey tells him to chill because he is getting a little too ahead of himself. Meanwhile, the princesses are having a baby shower back home that is pure drama. They are hovering over Fiona, acting like her personal doctors, which is low-key invasive. The girls start handing over gifts that are honestly so extra it is funny. Cinderella gives a gift that is totally shady, but Fiona plays it cool. The reality of having a baby is setting in, and it is not exactly glamorous. Snow White brings a babysitter, and Rapunzel is giving off major toxic vibes. This gift is clearly a trap, but Fiona is too nice to say anything. The princesses start giving unsolicited marriage advice that nobody actually asked for. They start body-shaming Fiona, and it is honestly so rude and uncalled for. Despite the hate, Fiona knows her love with Shrek is solid gold. While the drama unfolds, the villains are plotting to ruin everything. The bad guys launch a full-scale invasion, and things get heated fast. The princesses are forced to scramble as the castle is taken over by goons. The panic is real, and the ladies show some serious grit fighting back. The invaders are looking for Shrek, but nobody is going to snitch. The villains think they are winning, but they are just being totally reckless. Hook starts grilling the gingerbread man for information, and he is not playing around. Ginny tries to stall them by singing, which is the most iconic move ever. The pressure is on, and the suspense is absolutely killing it. They are desperate to find him, but Ginny is keeping the secret locked down. Ginny keeps dodging the questions with total nonsense, and the villains are losing it. He is playing mind games, and it is honestly genius for a cookie. They finally realize Shrek is out looking for the heir and take the bait. The villains have a twisted plan, and it is looking bad for our heroes. Arthur is still processing the king news, acting like he is the main character now. Shrek is trying to sell him the dream, but Arthur is still having major doubts. Shrek is hyping up the royal lifestyle, but the reality is way more complicated. They discuss the dangers of the job, and Arthur is starting to get nervous. The promise of fame and fortune is enough to keep Arthur on the hook. They go over the risks of being king, and it sounds like a total death trap. Arthur realizes the job comes with a side of potential assassination, which is a vibe check. Donkey warns Shrek that he is making the job sound way too scary. Arthur tries to bail, but Shrek is not letting him run away that easily. Shrek calls him out for being a quitter, which creates some serious tension. They finally reach the water, but the argument is far from over. Shrek keeps pushing Artie to accept his royal destiny, but the kid is low-key spiraling from the pressure. Shrek tries to get in touch with his inner team, but his attempt at being relatable is totally failing. Suddenly, an old man pops up from nowhere and claims to be a master of the healing vortex. Turns out, this is Merlin, a former magic teacher who had a major meltdown and retreated into nature. Merlin tries to offer Shrek and the gang some organic snacks, but Shrek is purely focused on the mission. Shrek demands that Artie helps them reach far, far away, even though the kid is clearly not vibing with it. Donkey is honestly shook to see Shrek acting so aggressive, but the ogre is not playing games anymore. Merlin refuses to give them directions until they deal with their own internal emotional baggage. The group is forced into a bizarre therapy session where they have to look into the fire of truth. Donkey reveals he is just thinking about snacks while the others are trying to have a spiritual awakening. Artie looks into the flames and finally confronts the trauma of being abandoned by his own father. The truth hits home, and Artie realizes the bird in his vision represents his own lonely childhood. Shrek pivots to mentor mode, dropping his tough act to give Artie some genuine, main character advice. Artie admits he doesn't think he is worth anything because of how his dad treated him. Shrek shares a dark, hilarious story about his own father to prove that everyone has a messy past. Shrek teaches Artie that being a monster is just a label, and true power comes from owning your own identity. Artie starts to warm up to Shrek, even if he still has to roast him for his funky ogre smell. Meanwhile, the princesses are bickering while trapped, showing that their group dynamic is totally toxic. Rapunzel makes a power move, and the tension between the royals reaches a breaking point. Despite Charming being a villainous clown, the princesses are still distracted by his looks. Charming reveals that Rapunzel has betrayed them all, throwing her full support behind his corrupt regime. Rapunzel shades Fiona and the others, clearly loving her new status as the queen of the castle. Charming is acting like he owns the place, preparing a trap for Shrek that is honestly diabolical. The villains are convinced that once Shrek steps into the kingdom, his life is effectively over. The guards are ordered to take down the gang, and things start getting chaotic real fast. The heroes realize the situation is way worse than they thought, and they are now fighting for survival. The action kicks off with the team trying to escape the clutches of Charming's royal army. They are desperate to save Fiona, but the distance to far, far away feels impossible right now. Merlin starts acting super weird again, and the pressure is mounting for him to use actual magic. They beg Merlin to help them, trying to leverage the power of friendship and hugs. Merlin finally agrees, but he warns them that his magic is rusty and might have side effects. He promises it will hurt, but the heroes are willing to take the risk to get to the kingdom. Merlin casts the spell, and the entire atmosphere goes absolutely wild with magical energy. They survive the portal jump, but everything is definitely not the same as it was before. Donkey is freaking out because the magic transformed him into something totally unrecognizable. Donkey feels like a second-rate version of himself and is honestly not having a good time. Puss in Boots also got warped by the spell, looking completely ridiculous and way too exposed. Puss is triggered by his tiny boots, proving that even a hero has his shallow moments. The magic-induced body changes are causing major discomfort for the squad as they regroup. The crew is stressed, but they keep pushing forward despite feeling like they have been cursed. Pinocchio finds them and delivers the news that Charming has seized total control of the kingdom. The news that Fiona is captured puts Shrek into a full-blown state of panic and rage. The team is broke, desperate, and looking for any way to get the upper hand against Charming. Pinocchio tells them that Charming is busy preparing for a massive, ego-driven theatrical show. Shrek realizes the play is a trap designed to humiliate him in front of the whole kingdom. The gang is shocked that Shrek didn't mention he was literally being cast as a villain. Puss prepares for battle, ready to slice through the royal guards to protect his best friend. The villains are totally underestimating Shrek, and they are about to learn the hard way. Charming is throwing a diva-like fit behind the scenes, obsessed with the details of his show. The ridiculous requests from the production team highlight just how delusional Charming has become. Charming is rehearsing his lines, trying to make his kill sequence sound as epic as possible. He is so obsessed with the narrative that he forgets he is actually trying to murder someone. Charming screams at his henchmen, acting like a total tyrant behind the velvet curtains. He is giddy with anticipation, ready to execute his plan and finally destroy the ogre's legacy. Shrek finally arrives at the venue, but he is immediately confronted with a cold reality. He finds out Fiona is secure, but the trap for him is already snapping shut. Charming mocks Artie, making it clear he thinks the boy is completely pathetic and weak. Charming is posturing with his sword, acting like a real king while Shrek stays focused. Shrek steps into the light, ready to end this drama once and for all. The tension peaks as Shrek realizes the entire quest was orchestrated just to break his spirit. Charming cruelly reveals that Artie was never meant to be king, just a disposable pawn. The betrayal is real, and Artie is left reeling from the fact that he was being played. Artie realizes he was just a tool in Charming's twisted Game of Thrones. Charming continues to talk down to Artie, thinking he has officially won the battle. The devastating truth hits hard, leaving the heroes feeling betrayed and completely exhausted. Charming uses Shrek's identity against him, thinking he is the ultimate winner of the story. The stage is set for the final clash, and everyone's fate is hanging by a single thread. The entire kingdom is watching, waiting for the climax that will decide their future forever. Shrek looks at Artie, trying to convey a message of strength before the lights go up. The comedy and the drama are colliding, and the stakes could not be any higher right now. The chaos is peaking, and honestly, the vibes are absolutely rancid right now. Shrek and the squad are totally cooked up in this mess, but they refuse to fold. Donkey is spiraling, low-key losing his mind over their bodies being swapped. The princesses are having a major main character energy moment, arguing over who runs the kingdom. Donkey keeps up his iconic sass, even when the situation is basically a horror movie. Puss in Boots is literally having a meltdown about being trapped in a horse's body. The squad realizes Charming is about to take Shrek out on live stage, and the tension is insane. The princesses decide it's time to stop waiting for a rescue and actually start throwing hands. They realize they are a ragtag group of outcasts, but they have way more power than they think. Queen Lillian absolutely flexes, showing everyone she did not come to play today. The princesses go full assassin mode, and the transition is just pure gold. Charming is setting the stage for a total massacre, and the suspense is literally killing me. Shrek is trying to save his family while the kingdom is basically turning into a chaotic theater production. Shrek shares a soft moment with the baby, realizing he really does have heart after all. The squad finally makes their move, storming the pavilion like absolute legends. They finally settle on a group name that is just peak chaotic energy, and I am living for it. They encounter Artie, who is clearly deep in his feelings after finding out the truth. The truth finally hits the fan, and Artie realizes Shrek was just trying to protect him from the smoke. Fiona is playing the role of the damsel perfectly to distract Charming, keeping him totally distracted. Charming is acting like he is the main character, but he is about to get a massive reality check. Fiona looks at Charming with absolute disdain, ready to shut his whole performance down. Charming is so full of himself, he does not even see the defeat coming for him. Shrek breaks free, and the energy in the room shifts from annoying to straight up lethal. Shrek hits him with the ultimate roast, destroying Charming's confidence in seconds. Charming tries to pull a villain arc, but he is completely out of his league here. Puss and Donkey roll in, and the reunion is everything we needed for this final act. Shrek and Fiona share a look, proving their bond is the strongest thing in the kingdom. Shrek is ready to end this, but Charming is still trying to play dirty with his little army. Charming orders the attack, but the tide is about to turn in a huge, unexpected way. Artie steps up, pulling a total heroic pivot that changes the whole trajectory of the fight. The villains are confused, because they have never actually been given a choice to change. Artie drops the most inspirational speech in movie history, and it actually lands. The villains start opening up about their secret dreams, and it is honestly so wholesome. The atmosphere shifts as everyone decides to drop their villain personas for good. Artie accepts his role, and the crowd goes wild, realizing they have a real leader now. Shrek shuts down Charming for the last time, proving he has that permanent main character energy. Fiona gives the baby a moment, showing the soft side of this epic war. Artie officially becomes the king, and it is a total W for the kingdom. Merlin finally pulls through to fix the body swap, and thank goodness because the horse thing was weird. Puss is finally back to his feline self, and he could not be happier about it. Shrek acknowledges Artie's growth, showing how far they have all come since the start. The ending is pure vibes, with everyone celebrating the new beginning and the next generation. Shrek finally gets his happily ever after, and it feels so earned after all that stress. The movie ends with a musical number, which is just the most Shrek way to sign off. The squad is dancing, the kingdom is thriving, and everything is back to perfect order. The music is absolute fire, and you can tell the cast had a blast filming this. We get a final montage of everyone living their best lives, which is honestly so satisfying. The resolution is just perfect, closing out the arc in the best way possible. The screen fades out on a high note, leaving us all feeling super hyped. And just like that, the legend of Shrek closes with an absolute banger of an ending. That is the end of the journey, but man, what a wild ride that was from start to finish. If you loved this recap, make sure you smash that like button and turn on notifications. We are dropping more fire content every single week, so you do not want to miss out. Subscribe to the channel right now to join the crew and never miss an upload. Stay tuned for the next movie breakdown, and keep that main character energy going.